Welcome to Women in Electronics, the only show that empowers, develops, advocates, and celebrates the accomplishments and advancement of women in the electronics industry. With your host, Jackie Maddox.
Okay, so here we are with Bob Gourdeau from AVX. Bob is here for part 2 of his interview, a leader and highlight interview. So Bob, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Jackie. It's great to be back, and Happy New Year to you and everyone else.
Yes, well, we're looking forward to 2021, and 2020, we had a lot of changes happen, and that's one of the reasons for this conversation is starting 2021 with a new mindset, and good to get some insights from some of our top leaders. So Bob, I will start out when we ended our prior interview, part 1, you mentioned servant leadership, and I thought that was such a key point. And so we ended on that note, didn't get to really elaborate. So I wanted to start with that question for you today, as far as what do you mean by servant leadership? How has that impacted you? How have you seen that be successful in your career?
Hey, it's a great question. And obviously when, you talk about leadership, the obvious point is, people need to lead. But as I stated before, I think the most important and most successful leaders are the ones that serve the people. And what I mean by serve the people, it really refers to constantly training, constantly coaching, putting them in the positions to succeed versus failing, and encouraging decision making. I think that's one of the bigger elements that sometimes managers, when they're in decision-making positions, they feel like they have to make all the decisions. And I learned a management skill many, many, many years ago, and it's called, keeping your hands in your pockets. So when someone brings something to you, instead of reaching out and grabbing it and saying, I'm going to go take care of this and solve this, give them that opportunity to go solve it, because that's really the only way to, grow as an individual is to, take on those challenging tasks and try to resolve them. I have one example, of serving that I think it's appropriate to mention. And that was many years ago. I had a situation in an office. I was the general manager of this particular company, and I had 2 females who were kind of arguing on the floor, causing a scene. And so I brought them into my office, shut the door, sat them both down, and said that no one's going to leave until we resolve this situation. And so when I look back on that situation, and it was resolved, there were tears and hugs and all that, but it was resolved. But when I look back on that, tying that to serving, I actually had to serve as a psychologist at that point. Okay. And so sometimes I think we as leaders have to put on different hats and respond in different ways that we might not normally think we would have to do to resolve those situations. And the good news is I never had another problem with those 2 individuals again, because I hit it, head on and put the facts on the table, and, everyone went away happy and then became obviously productive. So.
Wow, Bob, that's amazing, because it's almost like when you get an injury or you break a bone and it grows back and it's stronger. So what you're describing was that relationship with those women probably actually might have become stronger after, because they had the conflict, resolved it, and moved forward. So it's a key point, because I think that a lot of times when we look at management, we want to avoid conflict or maybe not get involved with things and tell people just resolve things on your own. But you had that instinct to know you needed to get that resolved. And that really requires a lot of emotional intelligence. So, leading into maybe that conversation from here, do you feel that many of our managers, people that you've worked with, industry leaders, do you feel that we're properly educating people on emotional intelligence and how leading people is way more than, do this job? Like you said, it's coaching, it's psychology, there's a lot involved. Can you just speak to that very briefly of how is it at AVX you are able to implement a certain amount of emotional intelligence through the organization?
Well, I think, one of the things at AVX is the fact that I have the credibility that I'm allowed to do those things. Okay. And I don't have anyone standing over my shoulder saying you can or you can't do this. And I've had good success over my close to the 9 years now in doing that. And I think that's viewed as a positive. And, should it, do we hope it expands across the board and throughout the company? I think so. And I think that is somewhat, missing at a lot of companies is educating, the senior managers, okay, on some of these things. Just because someone has a title doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to lead. And one of those areas that you just mentioned that I think is a really, really challenging area for a lot of people is conflict management. I think it's human nature that people don't like conflict management. And unfortunately, I think conflict management happens many times every day, whether it's with a late delivery with a customer or, a colleague at work or what have you. And those are things that, we have to have leaders that have the strength to manage those situations. And it merely makes everyone better at the end of the day. So again, I think I've been lucky, to have the ability to be able to, do some of these things and work with a lot of the people. And some of these people I work with aren't even in my department. Okay, they could be in another department, but that's kind of how I view things is, to not overuse the term, but, like my dad, I care as well. And I think we all work together, we're all successful. So I'm happy to do that.
Well, I love that. And we talked about it in part one. I love the fact that you brought that up about your dad and the fact that he cared. And that's how you are as well. I think it's a basic, simple thing that we forget about, not only in our companies, in our lives, in our world. If people could just take that standpoint of I care, I would imagine you've gone so much farther out of your way just because of that whole notion of you care. And so it makes people strive to be better. And I really appreciate that about you as a leader, is that it really can motivate people to be better and do better. And I just wanted to also ask you, when you have these situations in a company where, we talk about diversity in our industry, we talk about all these initiatives we want to do, and it's great. And but are we just talking, or are we really making a difference? Are we really doing something to impact that next rising generation of leaders? Are we really opening the door? Are we really training them? What happens in companies? Because I believe this is a big issue we face right now in our industry. There may be top-level thinkers who agree and want the diversity issue brought to the table, would love to just snap their fingers and, hey, we have a diverse company. But we have to deal with mindsets we've had for years and generations, right? So what happens in a company when top management actually cares and wants to make a change, but how do you implement that through the organization? And what happens when you have these blockers that don't even realize they're blocking? It's just they've been programmed a certain way. They don't even maybe realize their behavior. To me, that's one of the biggest issues we face with progressing with leadership and diversity in our industry. So I know that's a long preface and question, but can you address that?
Sure. Well, I think on a positive side, I think the first thing, the fact that it's being talked about is important. Okay. Because it has always existed, but no one would talk about it. So now people are talking about it, but then you have to say, well, who are the ones that are taking action, and how are they taking action? And certainly I'm not going to speak for every company out there, but there's still probably a lot that just talk about it and say, oh yeah, we're going down that path, and then nothing happens, right? It's the old, walk the talk. One of the things I was thinking that might help companies make it more of a step towards reality here is, we all get measured on various things, whether it's revenue or profitability or various MBOs. Maybe it's time that, as part of people's MBOs, especially in the senior management level, that there's an MBO that's related to employee development, specifically in the area of diversity and mentorship. Okay, and they have to provide the results of those MBOs, and it can impact their pay if they don't take it seriously. So that's one thing that I think should be done to maybe help start getting people in that direction and taking it seriously. I think the other area that it starts is in the area of when you're recruiting and hiring, and maybe it's more in terms of the HR department, but there has to be an unbiased review of resumes. I heard one company, I don't recall who it was, but they were actually, before they would submit resumes to managers to review, they would actually take the names off the resume. Okay, and because some people are influenced, well, hey, this is a young lady. I don't want to hire a lady. I want a guy for the job, or anything else along those lines. And right away, you're dismissing the action of hiring maybe the best candidate. So they take the names off the resumes, and you pick who you feel is good, and then you go from there. So it's just an interesting side thing. I'm not sure if it works or doesn't work, but these are the things that I think people have to do, is start thinking outside the box a little more in trying to figure a way to increase and like I said earlier, walk the talk when it comes to true diversity in the workplace.
That's an excellent point, because anytime you directly link some initiatives to pay, that's when you're going to have some change. So I think that's a very good suggestion. So that's something that companies can create, those types of programs internally. Management, upper level management can create that and start doing that. As far as HR, excellent point too, Bob, because I believe in a lot of companies, do you have a diverse-minded HR director, number one?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Start right there. And then what are the meetings that can happen in HR to try to promote a more diverse recruiting effort? So those are excellent points. And along those lines, okay, so we have these discussions for a reason, because there's an impact, right? So do you feel in our industry right now, with the current talent we have, with talent trying to rise up, do you feel that there's many people who are suffering from a result of lack of diversity within companies? Do you feel that this is enough of an issue to make such a big deal about, that we're trying to promote at Women in Electronics? Because we talk about it, but living it in the channel, what is your perspective?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I think one of the challenges we have today, and we've had in the last really now 12 months, is the whole COVID-19 issue. And I think it's probably derailed a lot of, activities and things that people maybe had put on their docket a year ago that they wanted to do in 2020. And I certainly think that it's also, caused some people to maybe have to change some of their leadership styles, because no one's face to face anymore. Okay. It's been a whole year almost. And I don't really see it changing, in 2021 anytime soon. So I think that the challenge is still out there, but I think it's been a little derailed because everyone has been, focused on, what do I do? I can't travel. I can't go here or there. I've got this thing called virtual meetings. I got 12 of them today. How am I managing that? And, there's some positives, but there's some negatives to those things as well. So I do feel that at the end of the day, everyone wants to do the right thing and doing the right thing is to be, able to have a more diverse workplace and promote the right people and help them get to where they need to be, and not have people, scared about applying for a certain position, or think that, they're not worthy because they are, this type of person, woman or whatever it might be. So I think that the whole thing is, and I'm not trying to shoot a commercial here for you guys, but certainly when your organization started, it has done a lot in our industry to identify a lot of the pitfalls in terms of diversity. And you guys have done a tremendous job in highlighting that to a lot of people. And I don't think it's intentional that people don't think about it. It just never was highlighted. And now that it is, I think most people and most leaders that I talk to in our industry in particular are taking this seriously and are trying to find, ways and better ways to be successful, based on the drive that you guys have and so forth.
Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. We're going to keep going with that. Definitely appreciate the support so far we've had from the industry. So I wanted to ask you, though, piggybacking off of that, for our young rising talent, you are one of these people who takes leadership to a different level with mentorship and coaching and all kinds of good, just advice for our next generation of leaders, even current leaders that are in certain positions that just haven't taken that next step. So what would your advice be to any person who's trying to rise up in their career in our industry? Like, what are some of those principles?
Well, I think the number one principle that I think the younger folks need to look at today is patience. And, a lot of them are and want to be on the fast track. They no sooner start for a company and, they want to know what their next position is going to be. And I'm not exaggerating. I have four kids, and I have a couple really, really strong millennials who are like that. And, that's not how I started. And I'm sure that's how, most of us that are senior in the industry didn't start that way. We know that you have to kind of, pay your dues and have some patience and this and that. So I think patience is the first thing. Secondly, I think, listening skills and communication is extremely important in anything. Okay. I don't think we, can underemphasize how important communication is. And that doesn't mean talking. That means listening. Okay. And then the other thing is, I think you have to show a level of sincerity and concern, whether it's internally in your company, but certainly externally with customers. Again, I use the word, caring, but if you show a customer and you come across that you care about their problems and helping them solve their solutions, that goes miles for you. And people want to deal with people that they can trust and who are going to, work for them and help them solve their situations. And then the last thing is, I think attitude, just having a positive attitude, and what's really, good for the company and how can I add value to the company versus what's the company going to do for me, I think goes a long way. And I say that because you never know who is watching. Okay. You just never know. I always tell people, hey, you want to be the first to arrive, the last to leave, because you don't know who's watching. And a quick little story on that. In South Carolina, I live very close to Clemson University, and we're big supporters, AVX of Clemson and their education, and we put a lot of money there. And so the head coach, Dabo Sweeney, I was at his youth camp with my grandson, and Dabo used to say, you never know who's watching. Okay, so you want to always do the right things. Well, during the 2-day camp, there's like 800 kids there. He's there full time. He's walking around and he's watching. And he noticed that there were a couple kids that were picking up paper cups that people would just miss thrown in the barrel, from their drink breaks. And these kids were picking up paper cups, putting them in the barrel. Well, at the end of the session, he presented those two boys with signed footballs from him. Okay, because he noticed it, and his emphasis again was you never know who's watching. So in our professional, business, and for the young people that come in, you always want to try to do the right things and focus on, the now, because you don't know who's watching. And Some people will watch, and if they see someone being the first in every day or working, late in the evening and getting projects done and this and that, you might want to look at that person to make sure they're promotable at the end of the day, because they have that skill level and that commitment that you like to see in your employees. So those would be the things I would say, are very important. And I also have, the last thing I'll mention is, I've also talked about what we call 10 things that take zero talent. Okay, so it doesn't matter what degree you have or no degree or whatever, or where you've been trained, but there's 10 things that take zero talent. On time, or I should say being on time, your work ethic, your effort, your body language, the energy you show, your attitude, passion, being coachable, doing extra, and being prepared. Okay, it doesn't matter, what your talent is. Doesn't matter how high you can jump, how fast you can run. If you do those things, then that will get you, a lot of places in life.
Wow, I love that. I think that's, I'm going to write all those down. I think it's a really good list, Bob. And I wanted to ask you, come to the end of our interview, one important question is, a leader like you who's been around the block, you've led a lot of people. What has been your biggest leadership lesson of your whole career? If you can take it down to the biggest lesson that impacted you, good or bad, what was that? Can you share that?
Sure. And that can go a lot of different ways, but I would say that I'm going to have to say I have two. And okay. One of them is don't burn a bridge. Okay. And again, that was probably one of the things my dad mentioned to me early on in my career. And you never want to burn a bridge, because it will always come back and impact you. It may not be within 6 months. It could be 30 years. But, people don't forget, and you always want to, you just don't want to burn a bridge. And then the last thing that I've learned, and the learning of this comment is really through some people I've worked for or I've seen in action. And that's making sure that you are ready, you aim, and then you fire. I have seen too many people ready, fire, and forget the aim part. And that is just not a good management skill to have. And with that, I've always told people in many situations, let's make sure we have all the facts before we fire, right? So the facts are the aim aspect of it, and then you can fire accordingly, but you also should fire very professionally. So I've always felt you need to take the high road in things, take the emotion out of it. Because I've seen a lot of people not take the emotion out of it, and things are said that are regretted later, and burning bridges and this and that. So, to me, those are a couple of things that, I've learned over the years, and certainly have gotten better at as I've, gotten older and more experienced. So, hopefully, people, see that and again, try to keep the emotions aside.
Wow, I really like that. The other thing too, just to piggyback on that, is I learned a lesson so many years ago, talk about not going on emotions, is anytime you feel heated, it's the 3-day rule. Anything can wait 3 days. Just sit on it, especially if it's going to have an impact. Just wait, and you'll be amazed how different your perspective is and how you react in a few days. Even if it's a little delayed reaction, it's always better than a quick fire and burning bridges.
Absolutely. You always have to take a deep breath.
Yes. So it's a good for people to understand who are listening, is the emotions in business can run pretty high sometimes. And so these are good conversations to have. And then really to conclude, Bob, I love talking to you. Wish we had a lot more time, but I wanted to ask you, because we didn't get time to get into it last time too, just, where you see, let's pull it back around to AVX a little bit, because AVX is a company that's been in the industry for a long time. You've undergone a lot of changes with the 2020, just like everybody else. Where do you see AVX beginning 2021? What is your, advantage in the marketplace? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish? And let's just hear a little more about AVX.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, AVX been around for a long time, so we're a brand name in the market. I think most people, you don't have to, if you mention AVX, you don't have to, get into a dialogue of who we are, where we're from, and all that stuff. So that's an important thing. We don't have to really sell the brand. We're a good name in the market. We've always had great quality products and continue to build quality products. We have various solutions for, applications, for example, like RF. We have a lot of solutions, products that we make to support the growing market segment of RF that we're all dealing with today. And we've been very financially sound over the years. And so, whether the industry is up or down, we're able to continue to invest. When things are really tight, everyone, wants you to put more capacity on. Well, we've probably already been doing that and have invested to try to stay ahead of that. And a lot of companies can't do that because they don't have the capital, the resources to do so. And then finally, we've had a very consistent management team. Our CEO, Johnny Sarvis, has been with the company well over 40 years. And that means a lot, okay, to have the leadership at that level be consistent and get, very solid direction for all of us at the end of the day. And about a year ago, we've always been part of Kyocera, and March of 2020, they bought the rest of our shares, and we are now 100% owned by Kyocera. So we're not, we don't have a AVX stock anymore on the stock exchange. We're a private company. So we really have the backing of Kyocera globally, which is, well over $15 billion company. So we're in a very good position, not only for, today, but for the long term. So when we had the fallout from COVID in the April, May, June timeframe, when business just stopped for everyone, we were impacted, no doubt. But it didn't impact us to the fact that we had to turn around and start letting people go, shutting down facilities, things of that nature. In fact, we've actually did the opposite. We've actually been hiring people, and we've been increasing our footprint globally. In terms of adding capacity. So when you have those things and those backing by companies like Kyocera, it allows us to really look at a 10-year, 15, 20-year plan and then be able to execute on it. So those are kind of some of the highlights that we have. And we have some great relationships with our customers as well. And that's how we get a lot of our products out, is through the collaboration with our customers. So it's for me, it's been a great 9 years, and look forward to continuing this drive that we've been doing. And even when we face some of these challenges that none of us have ever faced before, it shows some resiliency as well in the industry. And right now it's a good time. So we're gonna keep plodding forward and keep our eye on the ball and see what 2021 brings.
Wow. Well, what I'm hearing from you is you have consistent leadership, but you're still agile. And I think those are two critical components for success as we head into 2021 and beyond. And I'm just going to squeeze in one more question with you, Bob, because
all right,
this I want to get to really quick is, you talk about consistent leadership. I see it, I know it, at AVX, but what is it, not only that drives the leaders in your company, but you personally, what drives you to get up every day and do the same thing that you've been doing for the last 9 years and then beyond, in your career? Because what is that drives you to show up in your best effort every day?
Great question, Jackie. And I think that, for me, it's just being able to see people advance in their careers, okay, and as individuals, whether they come in through, an entry-level position in customer service and, 2 or 3 years down the road, move into another role in the company, whether it's in my organization or manufacturing or what have you, to know that, you've had an impact on that person, to be able to grow and they get allowed to have those opportunities, even if it's with another company. Okay. To me, that's, that's one thing that keeps me motivated day in and day out. Family is another thing. I think family is very important. And, certainly, when you have a family, you're there to provide for them. And, that's certainly a motivating thing that keeps you working. And I also just like to win. Okay. And I just like the challenge of whatever I do is to win. If I don't win, I hopefully learn something from that and try to move forward. But I like seeing other people win as well. And so when someone gets a good order and worked hard and gets that purchase order, I mean, it's, and I know some companies do this, but you want to ring a bell, right? And you want to highlight that, and it creates excitement as well. And then the last thing I'd say is, I enjoy, based on my experience, I enjoy giving advice to people. Okay. It's one thing you can't take away from, veterans like myself, is that we have a long, many years of experience. And I've even had some people come up and share personal issues and look for advice. And, that makes me feel good, because I can only speak on my experiences, and if it helps them in their lives one way or another, then, I just feel good about that. And that's what keeps me motivated.
Wow. Well, I love that, Bob, and I appreciate you as a leader. I love talking to you. So thank you for being here today, and appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again another time. Love that you care, love you're a consistent leader, and that your company is agile. And I think that AVX is going to do a lot in the industry, you as well. So thanks for being here today. Thank you for being a sponsor of Women in Electronics, by the way. And I know you were a big advocate of that. So I wanted to just extend that to you as well. Thank you so much to you and to AVX.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for the opportunity. And again, we enjoy the sponsorship, and we look forward to doing it for many years ahead. So thank you as well.
All right. You have a blessed day.
Thanks. You too.
You've been listening to another episode of Women in Electronics, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, octalkradio.net.